Moving on, we're going to look at developing drugs. So new medicines are being discovered all the time, and scientists and doctors are trying to find new ways of curing diseases. Before drugs can be used, however, they need to be extensively tested and trialled in a series of stages before they can even be thought about being used. So good medicine needs to have the following features. So it needs to be effective, safe, stable, and can be successfully taken. So for it to be effective, it must actually prevent or cure disease, or at least make you feel better. Safe, the drug must not be too toxic, so not too poisonous, or have unacceptable side effects. Stable, you must be able to use the medicine under normal conditions, and it should be able to store it for a little while, otherwise it's not really much use if it only lasts a couple of days. And finally, successfully taken into and removed from your body, it must reach its target and be cleared out from your system once it has done its job. So these are the 4 things that each drug needs to have for it to be successful. So moving on to developing a drug. So it can take up to 12 years to bring a new medicine into production. It is also very, very expensive to do this. So we can understand why if we want things quickly, sometimes we can't have them because actually they need to pass extensive tests to make sure they're safe before we can use them. So researchers target a disease and make lots of possible new drugs. These are then tested in a lab for toxicity and efficacy. So that's its poisonous and how efficient it is at working. Many drugs fail at this stage, however. So preclinical testing is what happens before it's tested on any sort of humans. So drugs are tested in a lab for toxicity and efficiency. Sorry, I can't say that word well. If they pass, they are then tested on cells, tissues and organs. After this, they are then tested on animals to see how the drug works on a whole organism. Now, this is one of the problems with the industry, because obviously people are against animal testing because sometimes these animals get harmed during this process, and some people argue about whether testing something on animals will have the same effect on humans, so whether the drug in animals have the same effect as it does in humans. This, however, does help scientists to work out doses and side effects. If the drug passes this preclinical testing, we then go on to clinical testing. So clinical trials, so they take healthy volunteers and some patients. They start off by taking very low doses of the drug. If it is safe, then a small number of patients with the disease that the drug is targeting will then start to take the drug. If this is then successful, then they'll roll out a big trial with many more patients and collect data from that. If the new drug passes all of these tests, then it can be used by doctors to prescribe to its own patients. So you can see why it takes quite a long time, because there's quite a lot of stages to this. During one of these stages, patients take part in something called a double-blind trial. So sometimes we have something called placebo effect. So if you've been given something, you think it makes you feel better, and actually it doesn't. So to avoid this, there's something called double-blind trials. So a double-blind trial is where patients with the disease actually agree to take part. Some of the people are given a placebo that does not contain the drug they're testing. Others are given the new medicine. They don't know which group they're in though, so patients are randomly assigned to these groups and they don't know which group they're in. Neither the doctor or the patient know which group they're in. Patients' health is monitored carefully throughout the whole trial. But some of you might be thinking, oh, it's not very fair on those that got placebo, but often the placebo drug is a drug already known to treat the disease, so the patient isn't deprived of any treatment. Okay, so just to go through that again, people are split into 2 groups. Some are given a placebo, some are given a new medicine. Neither the patient or the doctor know which one they've been given, and they monitor the health of the patients throughout to see if it's having any impact on the disease, and then those results are then used. So when we've done all this testing, it's passed all the trials, the results are then published. Before they can even be published in a medical journal, they are peer reviewed and scrutinised before. So this means that scientists and doctors check the results to make sure they're accurate and prevent any false claims. These medical journals are then used by companies that support the NHS and help them to decide which drugs they're going to use for their patients.